welcome to Life Extension Live. I'm Dr. Mike. I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Crystal Gossard, and today it's all about calcium.
Wow, it's about time, Dr. Mike.
Yeah, we talk about, we talk about magnesium a lot, and we talk about potassium a lot, but now it's calcium's turn, and it should be. There's a lot of confusion about food versus supplement, different types. So we're going to try to clear some of that up for you today. So on today's show, we're going to talk about what is calcium, first of all. Let's start basic, right? How is it absorbed, and why is that important to think about? And then we'll talk about the benefits of supplementing, and we also have a nice chart, right?
Yeah.
From the CDC?
Yes,
Or
from
NIH, with different food sources and the amount of calcium that they provide. So let's get right into this. Dr. Crystal, what is calcium?
Rocks.
Right.
Limestone. It's an element. It's the fifth most abundant mineral or element in the earth.
Yeah.
And we are about, fun fact, Dr. Mike, over 2 pounds worth of calcium.
Most abundant mineral in the body.
Yeah.
Right, so it plays an incredible role, and I think one of the key things we want to teach today is that it goes beyond bone and teeth.
Right, now, and obviously, 99% is found in the bone, so that's probably why that's all you hear about.
Yeah,
But
bone is where it's gonna store, and it's where you want it to stay, but then the body can pull from it as it needs, and
Yes.
can do some stuff. So eventually, all the calcium, we'll get to this, whether it's a supplement or food source, you want that into your bones where it belongs, and then the body can use it in different ways that it needs. So, so you said it's actually 2.2 pounds, by the way.
2.2 pounds.
You were off just by a point down.
1 kilogram, let's say that.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about why are we talking about calcium? What is so vital about it?
Well, it's needed for, of course, bones, teeth, needed for electrical impulses. I always think about neurotransmitters and how they deliver information. Those are our thoughts, our emotions, and how those nerves work. That final kind of action in that neuron is calcium coming in, and that's how those brain chemicals get released to communicate with that next neuron.
You kind of went a little southern there when you
I
described
got
that.
excited about
I don't know,
calcium.
that the voice changed a little bit there.
Well, I am a Southern
I
belle.
know, you can tell people from where you're
Yes,
at.
I'm from Savannah, Georgia. Hi, all of my Savannah friends out there.
Yeah, so calcium, I think another way to think of it is, any tissue that is excitable,
Mhm.
muscle, brain cells, whatever, calcium's there.
Calcium is there for that. It's needed for the release of hormones, enzymes. So it's more than just about bones.
Right. So, I think most people get this.
Yeah.
They get it's important.
Mhm.
Calcium is vital. We've been hearing about getting your calcium all of our lives. Commercials,
Yeah.
Dairy, all that kind of. So I think we're all pretty good with it's important, right? The confusion becomes food versus supplement in different types, right?
Yeah.
So I want to spend a little bit of time there. You being the expert in food and everything. And I think that's where you wanted to start, right?
I like to start food first.
Food
I'm
first.
a foodie.
Food first.
Food first,
So-
always.
So tell us about some of the common sources of calcium.
Food, for example, green leafy vegetables. I like to talk about broccoli. I like to talk about spinach, rhubarb.
Rhubarb, like rhubarb pie.
Great source, are good sources of calcium. And the sources of calcium in green leafy vegetables is actually bioavailable sources of calcium.
Let's explain that, right? What's your simple definition of bioavailability?
My simple definition is it's the ability for the body to absorb the calcium as well as use that calcium.
Yeah.
So kind of combining those two concepts. You can get it down your throat, but does it get into
and is your body
the
using it?
system and is your body using it?
I like bioavailable. It's like what's available to your body,
Oh, yeah.
your biology, that kind of thing. So but what you said is interesting because I don't think a lot of people realize plants are a good source of calcium.
They are, and they are more bioavailable than dairy.
But not as much calcium comes from them. Like the calcium that you find in plants, when you consume them, that calcium it gets in pretty well, and your body will utilize it. It's just not as much calcium per serving as maybe dairy or something.
Now there are a few exceptions to the rule, and that's why I think this topic can get a little confusing, because some of the sources like the spinach contains components that can stop some of that absorption, and so you kind of have to add in some dairy.
Yeah. Just to make sure you're getting adequate amount of calcium. Yeah. Now, vegans don't like that.
They don't.
See, vegans, a lot of times I think people, if they're gonna have certain criticisms of being a vegan, one of them is you're not getting enough calcium.
That is true, Dr. Mike.
But that if you're eating a nice variety of plants and leafy greens, I think vegans are getting an adequate amount of calcium.
Agree, Dr. Mike, and I have to just say, yay, because yes, you can receive all the nutrients you need from plants. I am a big advocate for that, but that is if you're eating the plants and eating the variety, and you're combining those nutrients, and you're not a carbitarian or the vegans that's eating highly processed vegan foods.
Yeah, very good point.
So if you do it the right way, you can get the nutrients you need.
Obviously, dairy is a good source of calcium. We know that. Cheeses, stuff like that. Again, a lot of calcium, but maybe not as bioavailable as some of the plant sources.
Yeah.
So that's basically your dietary sources, right?
Yes.
Your plants and your dairy products. Which is why we've talked about the 80-20 rule.
Always.
80-20. This is, I think, the best way to eat. 80% of your plate should be plants. 20% could be some of the animal protein.
Yes.
Right?
So think about more, adding in more of those plant sides. It's okay to have 2 or 3 vegetable options as your side dishes. Think of it. That's how I like, the Thanksgiving time, because I have all of my mom. She's going to make a variety
the green beans
of
and all
the
that
green
stuff.
beans, the squash, the collard greens, yes, lots of different veggie options.
We need to think beyond the potato as the only plant thing you should have on your plate. So Dr. Chris and I both totally agree on the 80-20 rule. Let's move into supplements a little bit. Okay, this is where it gets kind of, you could go into your favorite supplement store, health food store, whatever. Go to the mineral aisle. Tons of different choices there with calcium, and it's not just there's different brands of calcium. When you look at the label, there's different types of calcium.
Right, and we call those calcium salts, and the calcium, if it's a plant-based form of calcium, it comes combined in nature. That calcium's bound to the plant matrix. So you never find just that pure kind of element, even in the earth, just the calcium
from rock.
From rock.
It's carbonate.
Calcium carbonate.
Yeah, so these little side compounds basically help calcium get into your system, and that's where a lot of the bioavailability comes from. So you do want that, and then ultimately that calcium gets released, and so we also sometimes look at the elemental calcium, like how much pure calcium are you actually getting based on that type. But you can't you need that type for transport, for absorption, for bioavailability.
Yeah, so just to give you an example of that, calcium carbonate, 40% of calcium carbonate is actual elemental calcium.
See, that's
60% is the carbonate.
Is the carbonate, yeah. And so I think that surprises people.
Yeah, so it's not all calcium.
Right. So forms people, so calcium carbonate, you'll see that, right? Very common in supplements. Don't disregard that. A lot of people think it's just rock and my body can't handle rock. I know there were a couple of companies a few years ago that were pushing carbonate as a bad source well, whatever, what have you. It's not. It does provide a lot of calcium, but there are some other choices that provide maybe not as much calcium, but have maybe a little better bioavailability.
Right, so calcium citrate, for example, is about 21% calcium. So there you have it. You're getting more of that citrate or that citric acid than you're getting calcium.
Yeah, yeah, and
right?
and if you compare it to carbonate, it's about half. But citrate absorbs very well, lots of bioavailability, so it's still a very good source of calcium. And I know similar types of calcium that compare to citrate would be things like calcium malate. You might see that on a label. Calcium bisglycinate. And then one that we like a lot is the fructoborate.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Fructoborate. So any one of those types, good to go.
Good to go. Generally, you know, more absorbable forms. These are forms where you could take them and maybe take them loosely, I'm saying this, on an empty stomach. Because like the calcium carbonate, you need to take that with food.
Yeah, the acid helps to break that down more, right?
Exactly.
But these forms, you don't necessarily have to worry about that as much.
Right, you don't necessarily have to worry about that. But I like to think of the best approach.
The best formula is?
Combine them both. You know, combine some of the ones that are high elemental calcium, combine that with forms that are more absorbable, and now you're getting
it's the
the
best
calcium that you need,
It's the best bang for your buck in health.
And it's being absorbed. So that's why you see that whenever you're looking at a label for calcium supplements, you'll typically see multiple different forms
so that's
of calcium.
And I guess that's our take-home message for the audience, right? That it's actually good to see that.
Right.
It's good to take that calcium or even bone product, because that's where most people are probably what they're reaching for, bone. Maybe straight calcium, but you know, to see those different types on that back label, that's a good solid formula to take.
Yeah, it's a sign that the company really thought through that formula as well.
Calcium fructoborate. I bet most people never heard of that one.
No, that's one
like
that
it,
you
though.
find in fruit.
Yep.
And it's a form that can be beneficial specifically for bone health. There's some research.
Yeah. So calcium fructoborate, if you're taking calcium for bone issues, might be one to look for.
Yeah.
Might be one. It's the fructoborate has some additional benefit.
Yeah.
Really cool. All right, so that's food, that's supplements, different types. Let's now talk about how I can get the best bang out of my calcium supplement, right? What are some of the tips you have to ensure that I'm actually getting all of that calcium?
Yeah, and I bet all of you watching, this is kind of, I think you all know the answer to this.
Our audience probably does.
The number one nutrient you should combine with calcium is vitamin D.
Yep, absolutely.
You need it.
Absolutely.
Calcium, when we talk about absorption, right? We talked about bioavailability, but absorption is getting that calcium from the digestive tract into the body, and vitamin D is needed for that.
It's really one of the primary jobs. I mean, vitamin D does a lot, right? Every cell in your body has a vitamin D receptor, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it plays a huge role, but a key one, without a doubt, when you think of all the vital roles calcium plays, is to get calcium into your body, and that's a big thing vitamin D does.
Yeah, and so you need to optimize your vitamin D status. So it's more than just taking the vitamin D at the same time. It's making sure you have optimal blood levels of vitamin D.
That's what's key. Yeah, I like that. I like the way you said that, because you actually, if you can take them separately. As long as you have a decent blood level of vitamin D, you're going to get that absorption. So don't think, now that doesn't mean, some formulas might throw some vitamin D in there, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But, I think, a standalone vitamin D, every day, know your blood level. What's our optimal blood level? I always forget the exact range.
50 to 80.
50 to 80 nanograms per mil.
Per milliliter, yeah.
Simple blood test.
I know.
Remember my last one?
No. Oh wait, no,
I
you
did tell
told
you.
me it was
It was
80.
high. No, it was way high.
It was higher. I don't remember it being higher. Than that.
99.
Oh my God. Okay, and yes, because I told you to cut back.
I had I forgot summertime, and I was probably getting some from the sun. So, but I knew that because I got a blood test.
You have to stay on top of it.
You got to stay on top of
Dr.
it.
Mike.
Okay. So go ahead and get a blood test. Ensure you're getting good calcium absorption. Vitamin K. How does it relate here?
Yeah, that's the missing one that people don't think about when we look at calcium metabolism. Vitamin K helps to get that calcium out of the bloodstream, out of the arteries and into your bones.
Into the
where
bone.
they belong.
Right. Yeah. Remember,
Where it belongs.
Yeah. So we want calcium. 99% of it
Yeah.
is stored up in your bones, and that's where you want it. You don't want it getting stuck in arteries, causing plaques and all that kind of stuff. You want it in the bone. Let your body pull some of it out. Use
Yeah.
it the way it needs to use it. So vitamin D and K are partners.
Yeah, I'd like to think of vitamin K making that calcium sticky.
Yeah.
Sticky to the bones.
To the bones, not to the arteries,
Stick
to the
it
bones.
to the right place.
So vitamin D brings it in, K gets it into the
Yeah.
bones, where you want it. It's the 1-2 punch. All right. You like people taking calcium, and make sure I get this right,
Okay.
in divided doses, mainly because of absorption issues.
Right. So when you take calcium, upwards of 500 milligrams, you find that absorption starts to, it doesn't stop, but if you're going uphill, then you kind of start leveling out a little bit,
Okay.
if that makes sense,
Yeah.
how I'm putting that. So you want to take it in divided doses because the more you take, and I have an example here, let's say you take 300 milligrams, about 36% of that 300 milligram dose would be absorbed versus, let's say you take 1,000 milligrams, only 28% of 1,000
Okay.
milligrams. So once you go over 500 milligrams, the absorption kind of slows down. So you want to take,
Break it up, yeah.
break it up, because remember, the RDA is 1,000 for men, about 1,200 for women.
yeah.
So you are taking higher doses, and you want to separate those doses
So
out.
split that up a little bit, and that's not unheard of. There's other vitamins and other minerals that's maybe best to divide as well. So let's review that. So for men, 1,000 milligrams
Yes.
of calcium a day. For women, 1,200 milligrams. And now listen, that's not just all supplements. That's supplements plus food.
Good point,
Right?
Dr.
It's the
Mike.
combination
Such
of
a
it
good
all.
point. Yes.
So you want to know what you're eating, you want to know what you're supplementing with to get that optimal amount. What about, you had mentioned something about women over 50.
Yeah, women over 50, keep an eye on the calcium. You are the population where you probably should kind of look at calcium foods. We have a food list that we'll show you, because estrogen is also needed for calcium absorption. So when you're over 50, you're going through menopause, you have less estrogen,
Right.
you find that the body's not absorbing as much of that calcium. That's why you find bone health
big issue.
concerns
Yeah.
a big issue in that group.
So maybe, talk with your own doctor, but maybe you need a little bit more
Yeah.
at the end of the day. Again, food plus supplements. Here's a fun fact.
Okay.
Well, this is your fun fact. I don't know if doesn't sound very fun to me. It is a fact. Calcium is absorbed the same at night and during the day. However, taking it before going to bed may contribute to better sleep.
Yeah.
What do you think? Wait, I know that to be true for magnesium.
Yeah.
But you also believe calcium is there too. Is that part of the old wives' tale?
Well, with the
more,
milk,
the more milk.
no, it's the peptides. Those are proteins in milk that can
Okay.
help with sleep. So, but there is some research that calcium may be beneficial. So, the takeaway message is you can take it in divided doses, separate those doses. I would suggest taking it with meals, taking your calcium with meals, maybe morning, then at night with a meal.
It was a fun fact.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
Okay.
All right.
Or, or with lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
Something to think about, especially if you have some type of dairy, because many people have yogurt or have some type of milk-based products with breakfast.
Yeah.
So maybe add that calcium
good point.
in.
Good point.
kind of with those meals where you're not having as much dairy.
Yeah, so those of us who aren't vegan, we probably get a lot of calcium at breakfast.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yep.
I wanted to talk a little bit about this because you and I love coffee. Right? I've heard this off and on through the years, right? That coffee can deplete calcium absorption or decrease calcium. Is there real truth to this?
Wow, this is coffee. Let's clarify. Coffee versus caffeine. Okay.
Good point.
There are a few studies that have shown that the caffeine may have an effect on calcium, but the overwhelming evidence says that it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you would have to be consuming large amounts of caffeine, heavy caffeine. These are people who are probably taking some type of caffeine.
Okay, so
pills.
it's not then, okay, so leave coffee alone.
But coffee is fine.
Leave coffee alone.
Leave coffee alone. There's research, there's actually a research study here looking at coffee in men. Coffee drinking did not affect bone status or mineralization. So that's kind of what you're seeing in the research is even if there is something going on with calcium and caffeine, that ultimately we're not seeing that translate into changes in bone status or markers of bone health.
That's the official word.
Yes.
I'm sticking to it.
Science changes all the time. This is not gospel. I always say that.
It's true.
Because
that's a good point.
The world of nutrition evolves.
In science or medicine, if anyone tells you this is it, walk away from that person. It's never it, and that's normal. Our knowledge grows.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that it's not true what we thought before. It's just we learned more. You know? Okay. All right. We got from the NIH. There's the website there. There it is.
A list of calcium content of selected foods. You'll see yogurt up there. I always say this list is a cheat list because orange juice is on there, but they're now fortifying orange juice.
But that's so
with
common
calcium.
now. It's so
I guess they had to put it on the list.
Yeah, it's so common. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you see. I mean, it's just
sardines.
I was gonna highlight that. Everybody sees sardines there. Now, first of all, I love sardines too, but Dr. Crystal has a habit of keeping sardines in her office.
They're the best go-to.
And
snack.
after a couple of days,
well,
it gets a little sardine fishy.
That's if someone doesn't take out the trash.
Oh, what are you looking at me? All right, so remember, calcium, vital to the body, tons of responsibilities. It's not just bone, it's not just teeth, nerve, muscle. I mean, it goes on and on. Again, any tissue that's excitable needs calcium. You're going to get your total daily intake is food plus supplements. Keep that in mind. And as far as supplements go, it's good to see all those different types.
Yep.
Right? You're maximizing the amount of calcium that ultimately is going to get into your body. We have a wonderful article, right?
Yes, it's all about calciumlifeextension.com/calcium. It goes into some of the other roles of calcium, other myths you may hear or read out there related to calcium.
There it is on the screen, lifeextension.com/calcium. Check that out. Hey, thanks for joining us today. We love our Life Extension Live audience. Dr. Crystal and I have a great time doing this. Don't forget we go live every Wednesday. So go ahead and share, get some of your friends involved.
I know.
Family members.
Have a watch party.
Yeah, have a Life Extension live watch party. Let us know how you feel about things. Maybe there's some topics they might want us to do. Let us know that. And don't forget, I think the button says interested, or I forget what it says. If you click it though,
interested or
you will always be reminded that when we're about to go live on Wednesdays. So that's Wednesdays at 3 p.m. We would love to see you come back next time. I'm Dr. Mike. Thanks for watching.